Welcome to the Builders of Authority podcast, a show committed to helping you build authority for your brand. In the realm of business and personal branding, authority stands as a cornerstone. Authority isn't built overnight, it's built over time. So join us as we build something remarkable together. And now, here's your host, Adam McChesney.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Builders of Authority podcast. Our title sponsor of the podcast is Go High Level, also known as GHL. GHL is the all-in-one ever marketing and CRM platform that gives you the tools, support, and resources you need to be successful in business. It is a software that I've used personally since 2020, and it's been a game changer for not only our business, but for our clients as well. If you are looking to level up your CRM and marketing game, take advantage of this platform. There is a free and extended 30-day trial in the show notes, along with tons of Builders of Authority and personal branding bonuses. Today's episode is one that I've been really excited about since we got it on the calendar. There are very few people that have such a profound impact over the last couple of years on both my personal life and business as today's individual. Back in 2020, as many of you know, I went full-time into entrepreneurship, and then a month later, I joined Apex, which I've talked about numerous times on this show, and it helped build the foundation of where I'm at today. So many people want to know how I got started, what I learned. One of the best things I ever did was join Apex and learn from today's guest. It was originally where I started and learned the importance of building a personal brand and my authority. My guest today is Ryan Stewman. He is the president at Apex Business Association and has many other hats that he wears, which we'll dive into today. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey man, that's awesome that GHL's your sponsor. You know, I was thinking, it's like I used to do GHB, but now I'm really doing a lot of GHL, you know, like I'm getting older. My life's getting a lot more boring.
It transitions, and you're speaking at their upcoming events as well.
I am. You know, I've never done GHL and crawled through the sunroof of a car so I could go to sleep outside of a bar before, but I have done that on GHB. So, you know, life is drastically different.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much.
Said that shit on your show before, so we're off to a good start here, you know.
Hitting some first here. Well, thanks so much for hopping on today, man. I know you're super busy. I know you got a lot going on, but this is an episode. I remember I've been listening to your stuff for so long, and I remember you told people, like, especially if you were a part of Apex, like, get to 100+ episodes and certain amount of downloads and all that stuff, and you'll come on the podcast. We're at like 135 or something, and so ever since you said that like 4 years ago, I've been like, man, I can't wait to have you on.
Congratulations, man. You know, the reason why, and I would have come on your show a long time ago if you'd have asked me, but I'm honored to be here today. The reason why I set that fucking rule was for two reasons, Adam. Number one, like, let's give them a goal to play the long game. And number two, I would be like somebody's first guest on their podcast. They do 5 episodes and quit. And I'm like, well, this doesn't fucking do either one of us any good. You know what I mean? So, but I appreciate you being a man of integrity and going past the 100 and being like, all right, now we've hit the point to get Ryan on. So I appreciate that. Even though I would have probably done your first episode anyway. I say that shit because it keeps the tire kickers and kangaroos away. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming. Give the audience, I know a lot of people listening probably know a little bit about Ryan, but tell us about how you kind of got started with building Apex and kind of where the journey started even well before that. Because I think a lot of people see where you're at right now, and they don't necessarily know how everything got started.
Well, you know, I'm a prolific fuck up. If you couldn't already tell from starting the podcast off with old drug stories, you know, I was adopted at a young age, been to prison, been divorced, made all the terrible mistakes that you're not supposed to make as a young man. But I made them all in my 20s, thank God. So my 20s were a time where I was on probation, parole, or in prison, and went through a lot of difficult situations. And, you know, at one of those points, I was a millionaire, then went to prison, then came out with $25 to my name, lived in a halfway house. Within 2 years, I was back to pretty close to being a millionaire again, even though it was 2008, 2009, a down economy. 2010, I worked in the financial markets from 2004 to 2010. Our Congress, the fucking assholes that run our country, in case you're not familiar with what that is, these pieces of shit that run our country love to pass new laws for no goddamn reason. And one of those laws that they passed was called the Dodd-Frank Act, and it took me out of the financial markets due to the whole probation, parole, prison situation prior to that. And I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do, to be honest with you. You know, I had done three things my entire life. I had, you know, worked at a car wash, which doesn't pay much money. I had sold drugs, which got me put in prison. And I'd worked in the financial markets, and now I couldn't do that. Well, I knew I wasn't going to wash cars and maintain my lifestyle, even though that's actually a very high paying job these days. Wasn't then. And I know I'm not going to sell drugs because I did not like prison the first nor the second time. So, you know, I had to figure something out. When I got out of prison in 2008, while I was in there, walked in with over $1 million net worth, walked out with nothing. While I was in there, my wife at the time served me divorce papers. So I walked out divorced, broke, fucking dedicated to winning again. And my sister showed me this cool website called Facebook. And I used to make posts on my Facebook about me being the top producer and me having a good time with my friends and stuff, thinking that my bitch ass ex-wife would see it and maybe think she made a mistake and would come back to me, you know? And as a consequence of that, as a byproduct of that, people started hitting me up saying, "Hey, dude, can you do my mortgage? Hey, man, I didn't know you were back in the mortgage." Or, "Hey, man, I see you work in mortgages. Can you get us a loan? We want to buy investment property. We want to buy a primary residence," or whatever the case may be. And in 2010, when I lost the ability to do that job, I thought, man, I'm fucking on to something here because I'm doing 5 or 6 deals a month. I mean, when I say I was top producer, bro, I was running through 30, 40 loans a month. I mean, I was by myself, no team like all these other people claim. I was a fucking machine like I am today. And I'm like, man, I'm on to something. But if you recall, in 2010, there were no Grant Cardones online. There were no Tony Robbins wasn't online. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk didn't exist yet. Maybe he had Wine TV, but he wasn't the loudmouth, annoying guy that we know today that's all over social media. You know, I didn't have anybody that could mentor me to carve out this lane. So basically what I'm saying is I know what the fuck I was doing, but I got a course from a guy named Frank Kern, and it was teaching people how to make digital products. And these guys, they would syndicate email lists, and that's how they did all of their stuff. And I didn't have the money to get into any of that, or the knowledge of the people or the reputation. And so I was like, I'm just going to use social media at work for, you know, getting mortgages. I'm sure I can use it for getting clients to train mortgage guys on how to use Facebook to get mortgages. And now that sounds so normal. Yeah, we use Facebook to get mortgage clients. Back then, I might as well have been speaking Greek to people that lived in France. Like it just, you know, just a third party translation that was unfeathered. Like people would be like, what is Facebook? And no, like Facebook's a fad, and you know, social media is bullshit. And I'm a professional mortgage officer. I'm not going to get on Facebook and beg for business and shit. I mean, it was that rare, and there was nobody else doing it. So I didn't have a person to go to. Hey, mentor me on how to do social media, mentor me on how to run Facebook ads, and you know, it was just me on an island by myself. But I kept doing it. Finally, you know, probably about 2013, Facebook starts to go mainstream. Almost everybody's on it. I think that was about the time they hit 1 billion users, and or maybe it was 100 million. It was a high number at the time. I know now the numbers are so big that you know, they're unfathomable for what it was at the time, and it's a mainstream platform. But about 13, you know, I had enough success over a 3-year period teaching loan officers, and then I started doing these little small events at my penthouse that I rented in Dallas. I leased the penthouse because, hey, it's a fucking penthouse. That was cool. I wanted to check that off my bucket list. I wanted to live like the drumming kids from different throats. You know what I'm saying? So, but the penthouse had a 5th floor like lounge where I could throw events. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can go rent a house or rent an apartment, and I can, you know, pay for a hotel, which if you've never thrown an event, you wouldn't know this, but hotels love to fuck you out of all the money you make at an event. That is a fucking fact, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. And so that happened to me twice, and I'm like, fuck these guys, not doing that anymore. So I started throwing events at this lounge in my building, and I'm like, okay, I can pay $6,000 a month for this penthouse, and I can live like this penthouse and make cool social media videos, and then I can throw events for free on the 5th floor. It'll save me $30,000 a month from these events that I'm doing. And you know, the first event probably had 5 or 6 people. Second event, probably 3, honestly. But about 2 years into the game, you know, I got 50, 100 people coming to these smaller personalized workshop type of events on how to set up your Facebook, what to post, how to build a quick funnel to get people to opt into it, and how to email people. and I still do these today. I still do these kind of events. They've evolved a lot from how to set up a Facebook to how to properly set it up and things of that nature. But, we called it Break Free Academy at the time, which is still the name of my company. And about 2018, I decided that I don't even know why I decided this, to be honest with you, Adam, but I decided that I would rebrand as just Apex. And, we set up different levels and different tiers and made shit a lot more complicated, to be honest with you, on our end, on the back end. But something about that name, and I was leaving Ed Milet's house in 2018, and I'm driving down the street, and I'm riding in the back of an Uber, headed back to the airport, where I would sit next to Tim Grover on a plane. That was actually a pretty cool fucking trip now to think about it. But anyway, I'm like, I didn't know that Tim Grover was going to be in the seat next to me, but I sure wasn't upset when it was him, So,
Yeah.
but I'm leaving Ed's house and I see a sign that points to, it says Apex. And I'm like, that's a fucking cool name, man. And that name just kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, man, I want to call my network Apex. I don't want it to just be Break Free Academy, because that didn't really resonate. I mean, it was cool, but it kind of started off as like, break free from all these chains that bind you in life and shit. It's like Apex, that's the top. That's what we want to be. That's what we're going to do. And I rebranded it. That year, the next year, 2019, and I know you didn't ask for my life story, but I'm going somewhere with here. That next year, 2019, we had our 2 events where we threw in less than 30 days with no preparation that had 1,000 people show up at them. And I'm like, wow, man, I'm really onto something here. This shit's really grown a whole bunch under this new brand. And then obviously we all know what happened in 2020. And I think that was probably my favorite year to be alive, to be honest with you. A lot of people are bitching about it. And I was like, that year was fucking awesome. First of all, I got a fast car. There was no traffic. Second of all, there were no lines at any restaurant. Third of all, motherfuckers had to stay 6 feet away from me. I'm cool. I prefer 50 feet away from me, but 6 was fucking fine too. I mean, it was like a dream come true for me. And we had a hotel give us our money back and say, you can't throw your event for 1,000 people here. And I'm like, well, shit. So I gave everybody their money back that had paid for tickets, refunded all the sponsors, and I threw the event for free online. I was the first. I've done a lot of firsts, and we're not going to get into all of them, but I threw an event for free online where all my friends live streamed trainings through YouTube. And we had about 30,000 people attend. It was like perfect timing, Adam. It was like right after everybody watched the Tiger King and there was nothing left on Netflix because everybody had been home for a couple of months. And, all these guys that are way richer than me, Tony Robbins, Eric Worre, they're building these multi-million-dollar studios. And I'm like, bro, just pull out a camera and we'll live stream this shit on Open Broadcaster and act like we're actually doing something. So we're just in there feeding videos, acting like it's this big live event from all over the country that we're doing, man. Kind of like how the news does shit now. And, but I was like the first one to do that. And it was like perfect timing. And it just created this record trajectory for the next, up until recent times now. And so I know you didn't ask for all of that, but that's kind of the gist. Now you can pick apart what parts of those stories you want me to elaborate on or whatever, man.
No, I appreciate you sharing all that stuff. There was things that like I've heard, but I know a lot of the audience, if they've heard about you or they've been following you or they're in Apex, maybe they didn't know that stuff as well. But it was funny because I still do remember I was still working in medical device sales at that time. And I'll never forget, I was at my old apartment watching that event back in 2020 after it went virtual. And it was just amazing how many people were on there, but the way in which you got all those people to deliver trainings and things like that. I mean, it was awesome. And so a couple months later,
now that's like normal shit. But back then it was like, oh fuck, there's another first,
It was literally like mind blowing because so my trajectory, and I just want to like kind of bring this full circle of like how I got in the ecosystem, because I don't think I've ever told you this as well, but I hear so many people that have been following you for so long, like 10 years at some point, and then they end up getting an Apex. And so it's just interesting how life has a way of working itself out. But I started in medical sales in 2016, and I have no idea how I came across the Hardcore Closer, but that's how I found you. I found a blog, and then I found Sales Talk with Sales Pros, and I started getting inundated inside of the Facebook group. And then I found phone sites in 2018, started doing that for a couple of years, and then ended up going into Apex in 2020. And I think like so many people think of like, hey, how can I go do something and get immediate return back? right? And you were talking about all those different things. You threw events for 2 years and got to 50 into 100 people. So like, what do you say to the people that are just like looking for that like immediate gratification, that when you've clearly built something where it's years in the process of doing this that you're seeing right now, like, what do you say to that individual that's like, no, I need to know what I'm getting out of putting this work in?
Oh, I'd say to that individual, you have unrealistic expectations. And outside of winning the lottery or getting a large inheritance from a dead relative, there's no immediate results in anything. You can't go to the gym and get immediate results. You can't eat a bowl of salad and get immediate results. You can't put your money in a deal and it pay you back the next day. I mean, especially in 2024, maybe you could put money in crypto next day, or maybe you could go buy a house and flip it the next day, or maybe you could go get a car or a watch and flip it the next day. Those days are fucking behind us, thanks to these cocksuckers that run our country right now. Those days are a few years behind us, but realistically, all that shit was built on a false foundation anyway. There's an old saying in the Bible, build your house on the rock, not the sand. And I'm paraphrasing, but if you build it on the sand, the tide will wash it away. The sand's unstable. And most people are trying to build a foundation on sand. They want, the get rich quick thing. They want to sell EIDL loans or ERTC tax credits or the next crypto hot coin or the next gimmicky. And those people are doomed to be chasing shiny objects over and over and over and over and over and over their whole life. They're never going to have a real foundation. Real foundations are built like this. You dig a hole, you lay some pipes, you prime the pipes and stub the pipes up. You pour concrete on it. You have a mason smooth the concrete out. You wait 3 or 4 days for the concrete, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, depending on what your climate is, for the concrete to dry. Then you come in, you have framers build on top of that concrete. Like, that's what it takes to build a foundation. It's so different in business, like the chances of you becoming the Hawk Tuah girl and even that chick ran her 30 seconds of fame. You don't really hear much about her anymore. This was a lady who was everywhere, an internet sensation. And here we are probably 120 days later, and you probably already forgot about her until I mentioned her. That's the price of an instant success, or the price of an instant, we've seen a lot of bands and shit over the years, one hit wonders. They have one great song and then they never play anything else again. And you don't want that in your life. You want to be, taking back the music metaphor here, you want to be somebody like Led Zeppelin, where 30 years after you're dead, people are still fucking playing your shit on the radio. The Beatles, after you're dead, people are still playing your stuff on the radio. Those guys weren't one-hit wonders. Those guys weren't like instant success. We don't know how many bars and how many dive places and how many shitholes they played and how many practices in a garage they played and how many people booed them off the stage when they first got started. How many of their friends told them, "You fucking suck at guitar, Jimmy Page," right? Like, how we know those. You don't hear those stories because nobody's going to admit that now, because here's how success works. In the beginning, everybody shits on you and tells you you're crazy. And then when you win, they don't want everybody to know they shit on you in the beginning. So they're like, "Yeah, dude, I was with Jimmy Page all along." And Jimmy's probably sitting there going, "This motherfucker told me to give up guitar after like 2 weeks of playing it," But that's business as well. You want these instant results or this instant turnaround. It can happen. It won't happen long term. What you've got to do is you've got to build. You got to do the work. There's no there's no outrunning the work, right? And it's just, it is what it is. It takes you a minute. If you're going to be social media famous, it takes you a minute to build up your social media. If you're going to be, business famous, it takes you a minute to build up your brand. And I don't know anybody who's done it in 12 months. We see an internet full of people. I went 0 to 100 million in 12 months. No, you fucking didn't. Show your tax returns, you lying little week of a fuck you. Show your tax returns. Show your tax returns.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I think so many people get skewed, is because they get excited, they get inundated with all the fake bullshit that we literally see all day long. And people don't have to necessarily like show the receipts, right? And that's where like people get off, where it's just like, man, and I know you and I have had conversations about like what I've gone through, but like, man, it sucks so much because I have to like do the right thing, and I think that's one thing I admire about you so much. And one of the things that like on the surface level might not be the thing that people always take away from like you and how you run things, but like you have taught me by your actions to be like, man, a lot of times you just got to take the higher road. I have paid people off when my partners screwed people over. I have done stuff and went out of my way and delivered on shit that I did not need to go do, but like integrity and my core values are more than everything. And I wouldn't have learned that without being around you. So talk to me a little bit about that. Cause I know at your level, it can't be easy to do that. There's no way that it's just like, okay, hey, I can just go move to the next thing. Like that's one thing that you've instilled in me. And I appreciate you for that. But talk to me about like how that's been such a key piece to your success.
Well, when you stand for something like, let's call it integrity, and you say, hey, this is my core value, the people who don't have it will try to pretend that they have it and then try to use it against you when you stand by it. They'll say, oh, you can't trust him, he doesn't have integrity. It's like, motherfucker, you stole $5,000 on the way out of the deal. You know what I mean? Motherfucker, you didn't honor the contract, or whatever the case is. And if they know that's important to you, and this goes for anything, but if they know it's important to you, they'll try to use it against you. Yeah. And in my business, real numbers, I've sold over 83,000 products to people in 14 years. Okay. Most of them coming within the last 5 years. So if I have a 99.7% success rate, that means that, and first of all, in business, you're never going to have 100% success. You need to make it right 100% of the time, but that doesn't mean the other person fucking appreciates it. There's like ice cream doesn't even make everybody happy because there's lactose intolerant motherfuckers out there. And then even the people that like ice cream, you can give them vanilla and they're like, well, I like chocolate, or I'm allergic to nuts, or whatever the fuck, right? Like it's impossible. But at 83,000 people, if I just have a 0.3% failure rate, right, or a 0.03% failure rate of people that were dissatisfied, that's 2,500 people, 2,490. I probably have 200-300 people that I just, they ain't cut it. I haven't had to make it or whatever. And the problem we'll find in business is those 20, let's call it 2,490. Those 2,490 are going to be loud. They're going to be the people that go to Google reviews and leave you a 1-star review, even though the other 83,000 people didn't leave you a 5-star review. They're going to go to the Better Business Bureau and bitch, even though the other 2,500 people, the other 82,000 people didn't do that. Because the people that are winning are focused on themselves and focused on winning. And the people that are upset, they're just upset in life. You ever go, like, if you ever get a 1-star review on your Google profile, click on that person's name and look at, they've never written a 5-star review in their fucking life. None of them. That's all they do is they wait till somebody pisses them off and they're like, I'll teach you. And they never look. I'm probably guilty of it too, man. I leave some 5-star reviews, but if somebody pisses me off, I'm like, I better let these people know that this XYZ company doesn't do business right or whatever, and that's just the way that we're wired. So, a lot of people say, man, I want to get a big business. Yeah, but could you stand 2,500 people fucking mad at you? Right? Sounds good to say I've sold 83,000 products, but there's probably 2,500 people. I don't think there's that many with me, but let's just say that there is. They're like, he doesn't have integrity or whatever the fuck. But that's still a 99.7% fucking success rate. That's unheard of. And in business. So, these are the things that nobody tells you when you go to college, and nobody tells you when you're starting up a business. And like you said, man, I've had deals where I refunded people's money, I made it right, and then still gave them the shit that they paid for, that I refunded them for because they're unhappy. And they still tell people that, oh, fucking, this, that, and the other. And it's not just in my Apex business. It could be in phone sites. It could be in, my real estate business. It could be in my lending business. It's just something that we have to deal with. And if people know you stand for something, then what they'll try to do is they'll try to use that against you. Oh, Adam says he's all about nicely combed hair, but I've seen his hair messed up before. You know what I mean? Like that's what fucking people do. And so, if you're out there building a business, there's a couple things I can tell you when it comes to making things right and dealing with heat. I call it heat when the customers are upset, right? Putting out fires. First of all, contact them. Don't run from them. Don't hide. Don't be an introvert. Contact them. Reach out to them. Talk to them. Second of all, tell them to fuck off because you got to assert dominance. No, I'm just kidding. But second of all, like approach the problem head on. You know what I mean? Hey, what's the deal here? What I got to do to make it right? 9 times out of 10, they'll give you realistic expectations to make it right. It's the 0.001% that are like, well, I want $1 million in a winning lawsuit or whatever the fuck their desires are against your business, right? But 9 times out of 10, those people will say, look, man, I just really wanted the siding put up this way. If you can tear it down and fix it, I just really wanted my house painted this slightly different lighter color that I guess I didn't explain to you in the beginning. I really just wanted my fence put up, with the bars on the other side, the blocks on the other side. I just really wanted, my roof to be more of this way or whatever those things are. And it gives you an opportunity to assess the damage and assess the problem with the customer and fix it. Cause, people, they tend to think, oh, nobody cares about me. It's press 1 for English. It's enter a code to get a voicemail system. They never call back. There's no customer service. And when you show up and you can deal with those things and stand out, when the whole country's businesses are automate this, artificial intelligence, this, and you can add a human touch to it and actually be a problem solver, you're actually a mad customer can oftentimes turn into a raving fan. I had a mad customer. I won't use the word mad, but I had an upset customer. I had a salesperson overpromise and underdeliver on some shit. I fired the salesperson, and I had a customer that was upset. She reached out to me. I talked to her. I ended up selling her more shit, and I wasn't trying to sell her anything, but she's like, well, shit, I actually enjoy how you handled this. Can I buy some more shit from you? And then I said, yeah. And on top of that, I'll get on a call with you and I'll help you out with your problems. That person's probably going to be my biggest cheerleader for the next year, because she's like, hey man, when shit was fucked up, he actually contacted me himself, made it right, went above and beyond, and did more than what he was actually qualified to, or more than he was like called to actually do for me. That's my guy. I can trust him. So when I watched cars at him, I used to play this game, piss them off in the back, make them love you in the front. Like when they were in the vacuum lines, they would get out of their car and I go, sir, I need you to get back in your car and pull up here, please. They're, motherfucker, and like they would get back in the car and pull up, and I'd open up the door for them. And I'd be like, all right, appreciate you. And they'd be like, yeah, whatever. You couldn't have pulled it up. No, you were standing right there, sir. I'd say some smart ass shit to them. Then by the time they went through the car wash tunnel and got out front, I'd wipe off that same car, make sure it was spotless, open the door for them, wipe off their window as they rolled it up and be like, man, thank you so much. Have a great day. They'd always give me a $5 tip. Man, you guys are fucking great. They were pissed off 30 seconds ago, but by the time I made it right in the front, and so a lot of times people run from that customer heat or making something right, and it's never as bad as we imagine in our head. And it's an essential part of business, and it'll actually make you stand out and win more often these days than doing what 99% of people do, and running to social media talking shit about their customers or who they used to work for or whatever the company is, and then or just not doing anything and avoiding phone calls. Man, I don't love heat, but I'm good with it because I try to make it right. And sometimes if they have unrealistic expectations, I'd be like, Adam, that's fucking absolutely crazy that you would even ask me to do that for you. Let's just, what do you really want here?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of the crazy part about social media is so many people say, hey, like, go run this business, go become an entrepreneur, leave your job, make X amount of money. And then they don't talk about the reality of what comes with having a business, with having customers, with having upset customers, with having core values and building a team. And so most people have this blurred vision of what it's actually like to run a business, and nobody teaches them all the stuff that you talk about. And so when they're hit with that, they run, they hide, they go for the low blows on the people that are doing things the correct way. And so I think that's one of the biggest problems. There's so many like people that are essentially running their own business that are really just entrepreneurs. They want the things that you get from having a business, but they don't actually want to do everything that it takes to become an entrepreneur.
Well, if I'm being honest with your audience, a lot of that's my fault. I started the penthouse trend. I started the black t-shirt and tattoos trend. I started the fancy cars trend. I started the fucking fancy watches trend. Nobody was really, I started the private jet trips shit. Like nobody was doing that when I started doing it. We're talking 7, 8, 9 years ago. 2014 was fucking 10 years ago, was in penthouses. Now everybody's in a penthouse in Miami. But like nobody was posting that kind of lifestyle other than maybe Dan Bilzerian. But he always had 10 chicks with him or whatever. And kind of a different scenario. None of the business guys, Dan was like modern day Hugh Hefner, and none of the business guys were doing this stuff. They weren't showing off what it looks like to be a winning entrepreneur and stuff. And now I realize that I'm sorry, everybody. I shouldn't have. I was showing off real stuff, and so were a lot of people in the beginning. And now we see a lot of that. You can go get a Lamborghini note for 10 years. Anybody can charter a jet with 10 of their buddies and shit like that. It's different nowadays. It's it's a shell game where people are pretending to do stuff. But here's the reality behind all this. It's the hardest thing that I've ever done is uh, create a standard and live by it. The second hardest thing that I've ever done is run a business. It's easy to be a father for me. I have 4 kids. It's easy to be a husband. I love my wife, and I try to prove it to her on a daily basis. You know what I mean? And I'm a good friend, you know, and I'm a good pet owner. But fuck, it is hard running a business. It is, you know, because you've got so many moving variables. You've got employees, you've got the IRS, you've got contractors like bookkeepers and CPAs and financial advisors, and then you've got the contractors that maybe do the work for you, guys like Adam that builds your website and runs your ads and shit like that. And then you've got the actual employees that are in-house with you, whether they're virtual or whether they're in-house, but the actual core group of people that you're in charge of leading and managing. Then you've got customers of all shapes and sizes and mindsets. And, you know, I'm listening to Andy Frisella yesterday, and he said, I used to make the mistake of thinking when somebody wasn't doing something, they were lazy when they worked for me. And it caused me a lot of anger. And, you know, I would get angry at them. And I realized that most people, they just think differently than the next person, right? So integrity to me might mean integrity, something different to you. I'm talking to a guy a couple weeks ago, and he says, you know, you tell everybody you're sober, and you know, but you drink. And I said, first of all, I don't fucking tell anybody I'm sober. I said I quit smoking weed 300 days ago. That app is called I Am Sober, so it says I am sober 300 days, but that's just a screenshot from a fucking app, bro. And he goes, well, you know, I take that very seriously. I said, I understand. And he goes, well, I don't think you're the person in real life that you are on stage. And I said, I'm absolutely that fucking guy in real life that I am on stage. And he goes, well, you know, I want out of my contract because, you know, you telling people you're sober is a lack of integrity. I said, I just told you, I don't tell people I'm sober. I told them I quit smoking weed. There's a big fucking difference. Occasionally I'll have a drink, but I'm not tracking drinks. Goddammit. I'm tracking the days that I quit smoking weed. And I didn't promise you in our business contract that I wasn't going to smoke or fucking drink. What the fuck do you care if I do it on my own time, as long as I'm delivering the deliverables in our contract? And he goes, man, I just want to break the contract. I don't think you have integrity. I said, I don't have integrity. I'm doing everything in our contract. I never shook your hand and promised you I wouldn't cheat on my wife. I wouldn't fucking do heroin. I wouldn't fucking be a crackhead. None of that shit's in our agreement. Had you asked me about that, we could have maybe put it in there. But since you can't just be bringing up outside of the box shit saying that I lack integrity because I've done everything that I fucking promised to you, you lack integrity. You're the one trying to break a fucking contract that I've delivered on. But that's the kind of shit that you deal with. And I'm like, first of all, if I was just a company and you didn't know who I was, you wouldn't know if I smoked fucking crack in the nighttime or not. At least I'm transparent enough to be like, I used to have a weed problem and I quit smoking the shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the shit that we deal with. And it may come in a different form for other people listening to this show because they're not a public figure like me, but it still is like, and especially if you're a public figure, people put you up on some kind of fucking pedestal. Look, dude, I belong under the bar. I don't belong on a pedestal at all. I said in the beginning of this show, I used to do GHB and not GHL. I said in the show, I've been to prison, divorce. How the fuck could you assume that I'm going to be a perfect specimen of a human after hearing that backstory? Right?
Yeah.
Like after knowing the guys come from prison, divorce, adopted, bunch of other shit I didn't even tell you fucking guys because we didn't have all day to go through it. Like, how could you think that guy is going to have all the fucking answers? That's on you for fucking assuming. But that's the shit that we have to deal with as business owners. And you'll have employees, and I use this a lot. You have an employee that comes in and they're like, dude, I want to live by standards. I want to live by core values until you hold me to them. Until you actually make it sounds good. I want to work out with David Goggins, okay? You know what I'm saying? But I watched a video the other day of a guy that worked out with David Goggins, and they're on the Stairmaster, and the Stairmaster has those rails, and the guy kept grabbing the rails, and David kept hitting him saying, let go of the rails, let go of the rails, get off the fucking rails. I'm like, you think you have a standard until you meet somebody whose standard's up here, and they're telling you that the Stairmaster ain't enough. You got to let your hands off the rails. That's the equivalent of somebody saying, yeah, I want to come in and be a sales guy. Cool. Make 100 dials a day, set 5 appointments a day, and close $3,000 in sales a day until they pick up that phone. Then they want to hold the rails again. You know what I mean? 100. Oh, bro, we were making like 20 at my last job. This ain't your last job, motherfucker. You know, oh, what do you mean? I can't promise them that we'll do this above and beyond. That's not what we do here, you know? And so it's difficult and it's hard. And I hear this, it's not just me, it's you, Adam, it's fucking every other business owner out there. We get sold this dream on social media that I'm gonna make $100 million in 90 days on a 4-hour work week in front of a Ferrari with a jet parked behind me and a mansion in a penthouse. And then month 2 comes around and you're like, fuck, I made $2,500 this month and I have 3 pissed off clients. Fuck. Because that's reality, you know?
It is. Yeah, no, it is. Well, man,
if we could just shorten that rant down into 90 seconds, that'll make a hell of a fucking on Instagram. I'm just saying.
It'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. I'm excited I'm excited for people to hear this episode. I know, like, it's been an episode I've been looking really, really forward to, man. You did an incredible job, as I knew that you would, but I appreciate just your willingness to, like, share your story, share the ups and the downs and everything that's in between, because that's really what the reality of all this is. And that's really what the reality of building authority is. And I think so many people, even in my 4.5 years of doing this, people have followed me the last 3 months, 6 months, and they're like, wow, like, I've only known you go from here to here. It's like, yeah, but you don't know the shit and the years even before I got started of where I'm at right now. And so this was a great episode to be able to kind of bring a lot of that full circle, get to know you obviously on a deeper level as well. But Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on. Any last pieces of advice for the entrepreneur, somebody that's looking to build authority and dominance inside of their industry?
Yeah, you know, you build authority and dominance in your industry by being real. You can only fake it to make it for so long. Just be real. You know, use me as an example. I got on here and I didn't tell you how rich I was. I didn't tell you how fucking great life is. This is why people are attracted to me, because I didn't tell you my numbers other than the amount of clients that I've had, to use some math for you guys. Like, you don't have to be this fake, nobody thinks that life is full of rainbows and sunshine. Nobody's living that life, right? Like, nobody, from Jesus all the way up, right? Nobody's living that life. But I will tell you this, in every story, in every movie, in every book ever read, there is everything's okay, everything gets fucked up, and the hero always sees it through the end to make it okay again. So you might be in one of those 3 chapters of the book, the part where it's fucked up, the part where it's okay, or the part where you're winning for now, because there's always another, you know, we see that curtain fall happily ever after, and we don't see the sequel of what happens next, right? But if your life wasn't filled with challenges and struggles, nobody would give a shit to watch the movie about your life anyway. None of us are going to movie theaters or buying books where everything is A-okay, trust fund kid, never works, tons of money, never had a problem in his life. No. Like, life is all about the story. And if you're in a part of the story that's fucked up, that's the best part of the story, the best part of the movie, the nail biter. Will he pull it off? And you owe it to anybody who's ever doubted you, anybody who ever thinks that you won't make it. And you owe it to God himself to see it through the end and win and each challenge that comes your way, because that's what makes the greatest story of your life. And that's what builds authority and dominance in any industry, whether you're a fitness trainer or you're a rancher or a roofer and everything in between. The struggle is the one thing that nobody talks about, but it's the most attractive thing in every story that we watch of any historical fucking person, real life or character that's made up, right? Every one of them. Batman almost gets his ass whooped by, you know, the Joker. That's the best part of the fucking movie, you know? Spider-Man gets put in a cage and can't escape from it. That's the best part of the movie, you know? So if you're in that struggle right now and you think, oh man, I don't feel qualified to lead, I don't feel like I should be an authority because I'm going through XYZ struggle, man, share that story with your people, because that's what they want to fucking read anyway.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more. That's a great way to end the episode, man. Thank you so much. Where can people stay connected with you online? Where's the best place for people to follow you along?
I'm old school, so I got the blue checks from a long time ago. I've only got 2 profiles, man. I've got Hardcore Closer on Instagram. I am never going to DM you selling you crypto or Forex. That shit ain't me. Same thing on Facebook. I'm Ryan Stewman, blue check only. I will never have a second profile. I'll never have a backup page. None of the shit that goes like that when you're at my level. But, you know, you can always DM me there. You can tell me you enjoyed the show. You can tell me, you know, how perfect Adam's hair was in this episode. Whatever you want to say, man. I answer my DMs. That's really me. It's not a bot. It's not a virtual assistant. So let me know if you enjoyed the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. Like I said, it's been something I've been looking forward to. I appreciate you leading the way and being the example. And especially when times are tough, man, that's one of the things I admire about you the most is just the way you hold yourself, have those core values, live by them, and take care of people that take care of you as well. So I appreciate that. And thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
And thank you again to our guests for listening into today's episode and to our title sponsor, Go High Level. Without them, we aren't able to produce the quality of content that we do, like on this episode today with Ryan. Check out for a free and extended 30-day trial with tons of bonuses in the show notes. Make sure as well to leave us a 5-star review. We're making a big push for reviews, and it definitely helps move the needle. And remember, authority isn't built overnight. It's built over time. We'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. We sure do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. This way you'll get notifications as new episodes become available. If you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. We sure do appreciate it. Until next time, friends.